Okay, so let's talk a little bit about programming languages. So guys, computers are very great things because they can do very complicated tasks very quickly, right? We can get computers to do a lot of things that humans can't do very quickly. For example, let's say we want a computer to calculate 1 billion times 674 trillion. We might not be able to do that very fast, but a computer can do that very quickly. It's very easy for a computer. Okay? So computers in one way are very smart, but computers can also be very dumb in other ways because we actually need to tell a computer exactly what to do and when to do it. It doesn't have any creativity. A computer can't think for its own. We have to tell it exactly what to do. Okay, we have to give it very detailed instructions on what to do. All right, does that make sense, everybody? Okay, can you guys still see my PowerPoints or no?
I can still see it.
So when I do this, does it stop?
I can still see it.
The PowerPoint. Okay, perfect. Can everybody still see it? So put your thumbs up and your reactions if you can still see it. So go to reactions and press thumbs up. Okay, so you guys can still see the PowerPoint. Very nice. Okay, so computers need very detailed instructions on how to act, right, guys? We talked about that. Okay, so let's talk about first of all, let's talk about what kind of tasks we might want computers to do. So if anybody has any thoughts on what tasks we might need computers for, some tasks that humans can't do themselves, please put your hand up and answer that question and give us a suggestion, and we'll talk a little bit about it. Nobody has any ideas on what we might need to use computers for? I'll give the first example. So for example, with computers, we can build websites, right? We can build websites. So now let's say you want to buy a video game, for example, you can go on a video game store website and buy a video game. So that's one thing that we need computers for, okay? Because humans can't be websites. We need computers to be the platform by which we use websites. Okay, Sarah, yes.
So I'll tell you everything that I know. So number one, about the build website thing. I've already built one website, but I haven't really released it yet, online. I only released it on GitHub. And then there's also
Sarah, good job.
Yeah, but it's not complete. And then there's also you can also buy stuff on it. You can draw stuff on it if you're not that good at drawing in real life. And then you can use this to solve complicated math problems that are complicated for you, but not too complicated for the computer. Because I think that computers are really good at solving number equations, for example, a billion times a trillion. And then but they're really bad at solving word problems because they probably might not understand it that well.
Exactly, because computers don't speak English, so they have no idea how to solve word problems. So we have to explain to them what the word problem means.
And then there's also you can also this might be for a printer, but yeah, just
printers are a type of computer.
And also photocopy and print for a computer.
And print certain things.
And then sometimes you use computers to do jobs, and then sometimes when you want to write a bunch of things, for example, you want to write 50 times one sentence, for example,
hi, my name is Alon. You want to write that 50 times?
Yeah, you want to write that 50 times, but you don't want to waste all that much time writing it down and wasting that much ink and paper. So maybe you just want to use the computer to print it.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. So a computer, because we can take advantage of the fact that a computer can do things very quickly and understand how to do tasks very quickly and do them very quickly, a computer can write out a single sentence 50 times very, very easily. Whereas for a human, that might take a long time and your hand starts to hurt and each line is not exactly the same. A computer, it's very easy for a computer to do this. Thank you, Sarah, so much for all those different hard tasks that we need computers to do. That's very great. And I'm very amazed and proud of you that you're in the middle of building your website or nearing the end of building your own website. That's very great. Okay, I want to hear from some other people, some suggestions as to hard tasks that we need computers for. And I'm just going to plug in my computer because it is running out of battery slowly. Okay, so please put your hands up and then I'll get to you once I plug in my computer. Okay, nobody else has any suggestions for what we might need a computer to do?
You could like use a computer to solve really hard math questions, like that uses logic. For example, I really don't know, but like they're more efficient than humans sometimes, but they don't have that's basically it.
They don't have what? Sorry. What was that, Alan? They don't have what?
They don't have common sense.
It's true. Yeah, they don't have common sense. Exactly. Okay. Thank you, Alan, and thank you, Sarah. Alan, I do want to remind you that we're going to put our hand up just to avoid people speaking over each other. Okay. If you don't worry about it, but just for next time, if you could please put your hand up either in real life or through Zoom, that would be great. Thank you so much. Okay, great. So yeah, these are very hard tasks that we need computers to do. So I'm going to give some more examples of some hard tasks. So for example, let's say you're a barber and you need to manage all your appointments. You could do it on paper, but it would be much easier to do it on a computer because you can easily erase things. You can easily move different appointments around. You can put all sorts of information in very easily, like your customer's name, how much their appointment costs, and things like that, how they're going to pay. So that's how a barber might use a computer. Pharmacies might use a computer to get medicine information very quickly. So let's say somebody says, well, I have an allergy. Does this allergy affect which medicine I need to take? Instead of having all these different medicines in their head and where they might get mixed up or they might not remember, they can have a computer which stores all that information and you can get that information very quickly, right? So almost every job nowadays requires a computer in one way or another. So computers are very useful machines, okay? But the issue with computers, exactly as Alan said, they don't have common sense. And what Sarah also touched upon is that they don't speak English, right? Computers understand instructions, which they need. They can only do tasks with instructions. So computers understand instructions only in zeros and ones, okay? So 0 means no electric signal and 1 means yes electric signal. So computers only speak the language. This language is called binary. It's a language made up of zeros and ones, and that's the only type of instructions they understand. Okay? Now this language called binary is very complicated for humans. Okay? It's too much for humans to remember exactly what each 0 and 1 and where it's placed, what that means. Okay? So a group of computer scientists came up with something called a programming language. A programming language is a more simple form of instructions, which we can give the computer, and then the computer can translate it into binary, into zeros and ones, and then it can execute the tasks that we give it to do. Okay? So there are hundreds of programming languages. You might have heard of some of them. There's HTML, there's CSS, there's JavaScript, PHP, Ruby. There's so many programming languages. Today's class and future classes, we're learning Python. Python is a great language for a few reasons. So there's different types of languages. So there's high-level languages, programming languages, and low-level programming languages. So high-level programming languages are closer to English, okay? They're closer to English because they're more simple and easier for humans to understand. And low-level languages are more complicated and they're closer to binary. They resemble zeros and ones way more. So Python is a great language to begin learning, to begin your learning process with, because it's a high-level language. Remember what that means? A high-level language means it resembles English more and it's more simple. Okay, so that's why Python is an easier language, is one of the best languages to start with. And it's very popular because a lot of people can easily learn it and speak it. Okay, great. So that's about programming languages. Now we're going to learn about this big thing, which you might have heard of and might have not, called integrated development environments. So because that's such a long term, we used a shorter term called IDEs. It's an abbreviation. So integrated development environments. Okay, and an integrated development environment is where we write our code, where we write our instructions for the computer. Okay, and basically why we need this is because let's say you had a Word document and you wrote Python code in there. Okay, that Python code might be correct. It might give good instructions to a computer, but the computer thinks it's just text, that it's just normal text, and it's not going to view it as instructions. So we use our IDE to write our code, our programming language code, or our instructions, and then the computer says, okay, these are instructions. And then the IDE helps the computer translate it into binary, so zeros and ones. Does that make sense, everybody? So that's what an IDE is. Does everybody understand what an IDE is? Please put your thumbs up if you do. And then I'll get to you, Sarah. Put your thumbs up in reactions, since not everybody has their camera on. Okay, so Alon and Lulu. Thank you. Okay, thank you, everybody. Now, Sarah, yes, you had a question.
So just wanted to tell you what integrated development environment I use. So I use the Visual Studio Code, which is basically an app that you either install or it's already on your computer.
Yeah.
And then you code in there. You can make all sorts of different tabs for different codes. You can also upload pictures onto it.
Yeah, Visual Studio Code, which Sarah uses, is a great IDE because it understands a lot of different languages, and you can also upload photos and open many tabs, and it's a very popular one. So just like there's hundreds of different types of programming languages, there's hundreds of different types of IDEs. So there's a lot of options to choose from. Okay, Alon, I saw you had your hand up. Was that just an accident?
No, I was just testing it out.
You were just testing it out. Okay, no worries. Okay, thank you, Sarah. Did you have another question, or you're just left your hand up?
So I just left my hand up.
Oh, okay, no worries. That's okay. So guys, the IDE we're going to be using for the next few classes is called REPL.it. You might have heard of it. REPL.it is also its name, or REPL.it, some people call it. And we're going to be using this one because it's great and it's online, meaning you don't have to download anything. And it understands also many different types of languages, although the only language we need it for is Python. So, okay, so guys, this is the home page of REPL. So to create a new file, a new Python file, we just create plus here, and then we name it whatever we want. So first we choose the language that it's going to be in. See how there's so many different languages that REPL can understand. Let's click Python, and let's call it lesson 1. Okay, and then we create this file called a REPL. And this is how it looks, okay? So here is where we write our code, okay? So this is where we write our Python code. And this is where the Python code executes, and it shows us what the output is. And if we want to run our code, running our code means telling our computer what to do. And once we're done writing our code, we click run here. So right now when I click run, nothing's going to happen because there's no instructions for the computer. Okay, perfect. So what I want to start explaining to you guys is right now I'm going to write, when I write things in text here, You can ignore the quotation marks. I'm going to write things in text here. So for example, hello, my name is Alon. This is not instructions. This is called a comment. Okay, meaning it's just English language things. Okay, so I'm got stuff that I want to write in English. I'm going to do in this little box surrounded by these quotation marks. And you don't have to worry about knowing what the quotation marks mean or anything like that, because this isn't part of the lesson. It's just things that I want to write in English. I'm going to write in here. Does that make sense? Everybody do your thumbs up reaction if you're following along. Okay, Samson, great. Lulu, awesome. Okay, Calvin and Sarah, sorry, I didn't see your hands up. Okay, so Calvin, yes, go ahead. Calvin, do you have your hand up? Are you there? Okay. Calvin is not there. Sarah, did you have a question?
No, I just forgot to put it down.
That's no problem. That happens to me a lot anyway. Okay, so the first thing I want to explain to you guys about Python is that the computer, different things in Python are called objects. So for example, we can have a piece of text in our Python code. For example, this piece of the piece of text that says hello world. Okay, that's a piece of text. Okay, so pieces of text in Python are called a string. Okay, and strings are just pieces of text. And when we want to tell the computer that something is a piece of text, we surround it with quotation marks. Okay, so we put quotation marks and we write our text in there. So in Python, this object will be a piece of text or a string containing hello world. So it's the string hello world. That means the piece of text that says hello world. Okay, we can also create a piece of text called my name is Alon. Okay, I like sushi. That's a string. It can be as long as we want. Okay, it can contain as many lines as we want. Okay, as long as it contains text. It can also just be a number like this. That's still, even though it's a number, because it's surrounded in quotation marks, the computer treats it as text. Okay, you guys understand that so far? Okay, if anybody has any questions, please put your hands up. Awesome. Okay, so this is called a string, and the computer treats strings as text, and I'll show you what we can do with text. Okay, so the next type of object, these types of objects are called data types, which is a little bit of a complicated name, but all it means is different types of objects that the computer can understand. So the first one is called a string. Okay, a string is just any piece of text. For example, the example that I just gave, hello world. There's also something called an integer. That just means a whole number. Okay, so can anybody put their hand up and give me an example of a whole number? So just put your hand up in the computer reactions. So Alan, I see you're clapping your hands.
1.
1. Okay, great. 1 is a whole number, but please do put your hand up next time instead of clapping. But that's okay. Well, yes, Alan.
I was just testing it out.
Okay, so you said 1, right? Okay, great. So
yeah.
in REPL, our texts are highlighted in orange, and whole numbers or integers are highlighted in green. Okay, so this is highlighted in green. So the computer treats this object as a whole number, and there are different things we can do with whole numbers: add, subtract, multiply, divide. Right? We're going to get to all those different things, but the computer treats this as a whole number or an integer. Now, the way the computer treats something, meaning the different type of object that it is, matters, because we can do different things with different types of objects, right? So for example, what we can do is multiply 1 and 7. That's something we can do with whole numbers, but we can't multiply text together, right? We can't multiply different strings together. For example, let's say we did hello world times my name is Alon, that makes no sense. The computer says, well, this doesn't make any sense. But you can multiply two whole numbers together. For example, 1 times 7. That the computer can understand, and it can translate that to binary, right? And actually figure out what 1 times 7 is, which is 7. Does that make sense, guys?
How do you write it? 1 times 7 equals, and then press run.
Yeah, so I'm going to explain to you how to do that in a moment. Right now, I just want to explain to you the different types of objects in Python. Okay, but don't worry, I'm going to teach you guys how to do multiplication, addition, subtraction, division, exponents, everything. Don't worry.
I already learned exponents.
Very cool. You haven't, or you have learned exponents?
I said I have.
Oh, you have. Okay, awesome. So other
I learned it in math class, not
Very
clash.
cool. So other students might have not learned how to do exponents, so I will explain that. Don't you worry. Okay, the next type of object that I'll talk about today is decimal numbers. You guys know what decimal numbers are?
Yeah, I already learned it.
Okay, awesome. So if you know what a decimal number is, please do the thumbs up reaction.
Same, I know what are decimal numbers.
Okay, great. So Alan knows. Anybody else? Calvin, yeah. Samson, very nice. Okay, so I'll explain what they are if not everybody knows what they are. Okay, the next type is a decimal point. So for example, 23.1. Now the computer treats this as a decimal, not as a whole number. And this, the computer treats as a whole number, not as a decimal. So they are different. There are things we can do with decimals that we can't do with whole numbers. And there are things we can do with whole numbers that we can't do with decimals. Okay, does that make sense? So those are the 3 types of objects, the 3 data types that I want you guys to know. So this is a string, okay? String, right? In Python, string is called stir, okay? That's the shorthand notation. And then this is called an integer or a whole number. So int is how we write it in Python. And this is called a decimal. In Python, that's called a float, okay? Which is a bit of a funny name. But these are the 3 data types that I want you guys to know. String, which is just text. Int, which means whole number. And float, which means decimal number. Okay, so those are the 3 types of objects or 3 data types that I want you guys to know. Okay. Now the next thing we're going to talk about is variables and constants. So have you guys heard the terms variables and constants before? If you have, put your hand up and tell me what you know about them. Yes, Calvin.
What was it again?
So the question was, do you know what a variable is, or what a constant is, or both? And if you do,
I learned about a variable. I kind of forgot.
Okay, so tell me what you know about variables, and then I'm gonna
I think the variable was like a number.
Okay, very okay.
It like does,
variable can
but
be
it like tells you what is like the thing is, I guess.
Yeah, okay, that's a great way to think about it. So Sarah, yes, you have your hand up.
Basically, a variable is like something like a piece of Python code.
Yeah.
Like something in Python that can contain like text, numbers, whatever. It can even be combined. Like
to contain. That's
the word headphones, 1, notepad 1, notebook 1, all of those stuff. And then a variable is basically like something that contains anything that you type into it.
Yeah, exactly. So a variable is some sort of container. So I'm going to explain exactly how it works after. So thank you for that great explanation, Sarah. That was a really good explanation. Yes, Alan, you have your hand up as well.
Yes, a variable is basically like an unknown letter replaced by usually a letter, usually X or Y.
Yes, so that's a variable in math. And variables in math and variables in computer languages, programming languages, are related, but not exactly the same. But in math, you're absolutely right. We usually use the letters X and Y, and they represent some unknown number. In Python, though, variables represent a known number. So I'll explain exactly a known number or other piece of data. Okay. So right now there are three types of data. Okay. Can somebody put their hand up and tell me what the three types of data that I've explained are? I'm gonna erase
String,
this.
int, and float.
Yeah, string, integer, and float, or stir, int, and float. Perfect. Thank you, Alon. Okay, so I'm gonna share the whiteboard so I can explain properly what a variable is. Okay. So let's say we're writing a program. A program is a set of instructions that the computer needs to execute about the marks all the kids have in a classroom, right? So we have Calvin's mark, Sarah's mark, Lulu's mark, Alan's mark, Samson's mark, and Vicky's mark, right?
Oh, we
So
don't
that's a
see
lot
it.
of marks. So
We don't see.
I'm right now. Say that again,
We don't
Alan?
see. We don't see. We don't see what you're writing.
I'm not writing anything right now. I'm just explaining about a program, like an idea for a program. So let's say we have this program written out. Now, people's marks can change, right? So for example, Calvin might have a 90, but his mark might go up. He might get a 95 at some point, right? So we need some container to contain the value of Calvin's mark, and we need to be able to change Calvin's mark, right? So we need to be able to make Calvin's mark and go from a 90 to a 95, okay? Meaning we need some sort of box called Calvin's mark that contains Calvin's mark, but doesn't just contain a number. It can change, the number inside of that box can change. So that's what a variable is. Okay, so I'm gonna draw it out. So a variable is a sort of box. You can think about it as a programming box. Okay, so I'm gonna imagine it as an open box. Okay, which has three attributes. Okay, I'm gonna write the attributes in red. So it has a name. Okay, it has a type, and I'm gonna explain what all these mean. So it has a name, it has a type, and inside it, it has a value. Okay, so that's what a variable is. It has three attributes, okay? A name, a type, and a value. So in our Calvin's mark example, the name might be Calvin's mark. This is a way we write names in Python, which I'll explain soon. Can anybody tell me what the type is going to be? So the type is the type of object that's inside the box. So is it going to be text? Is it going to be a string? Is it going to be an integer, or is it going to be a float?
I think
Sarah.
it's going to be a text.
Sarah, yes, you put your hand up.
It might. I think it's a string.
You think it's a string? Okay, and why do you think it's a string?
Because like I think that never mind. I changed to text.
Yeah, so text
Or numbers. I changed to text and numbers.
Okay, so remember guys, there's three types of data, right? There's strings, which just means text and types of text. There's integer, which means whole number, and there's float, which means decimal number. Okay, so your grade, so for example, 95, 60, 70, 85, is that a string? Is that a whole number, or is that a float, decimal number?
String.
That's a string. Okay, Alan, you want to explain why you think that's a string?
Because it's a list of numbers.
But Calvin only has one mark, right? So let's say
It's it.
So let's say Calvin's mark is 95, okay? So if Calvin's mark is 95, is that a string? Is that a float? Or is that an integer?
Integer.
Integer, right? Awesome. Okay, great. So Calvin's mark, the type is going to be integer, okay, because it contains a number. Perfect. Thank you, Alan. Okay, so this box name, this variable name is Calvin's mark, okay? The type of value it's going to contain is an integer. And let's say Calvin's mark is 95. What's the value going to be? Can someone tell me?
95.
95. Thank you, Alan. Right. So the name of the box is Calvin's mark. The type is integer because it's going to contain an integer value. And the value, meaning the thing stored inside this box, is going to be Calvin's mark, which is a 95. Okay, awesome. Does everybody understand that? Put your thumbs up if you do, and put your hand up and ask a question if you don't. Because if you don't understand it, that means you have something that you don't understand, which you can ask me about, and I will try to explain. Okay, thank you, Alan. Thank you, Lulu. Okay, Sarah, yes.
So I pretty much understand, but I wanted to. So basically, it's like this, isn't it? So the stuff inside the variable decides what the variable is mainly about. For example, if I made a variable called pens, and I put inside ballpoint pens, and gel pens and that sort of stuff, then it would decide that the variable is mainly about pens. However, if I named a variable books, but I put in the names of all sorts of pens, then it wouldn't be about books anymore. It would be about pens, because the name doesn't decide what the variable is about. What's inside the variable decides what it's about.
Exactly. So what goes inside the box determines what the type is. So we can't have type. That's a great point, Sarah. Thank you so much. So we can't have integer. So we can't have the integer type and then have a string inside the box. That would make no sense, because the thing inside the box is not of type integer. So once we're of type integer, the box is of type integer, only integers can go inside the box. And in Python, we actually don't tell the computer what type the box is, what type the variable is. Exactly like Sarah said, what goes inside the box determines what type the box is. So if we put hello inside the box, automatically Python is going to say, okay, so this box, this variable is of type string, right? Does that make sense, everybody?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Awesome, Alan. Awesome, Sarah. So the reason variables are called variables is because it comes from the word vary, okay? Vary means change. So to vary means to change. Now, the whole thing about variables, remember, guys, what I said about Calvin's mark being able to change? So let's go back to my previous example where we had an integer. 95, integer. Now, what if Calvin's mark goes up to 97? So we need to be able to change the variable, because it's a variable, it varies. So in a variable, the box is always open. This container is always going to be open. We can always change what's inside the box. And in Python, we can even change what type the box is. So we can even change this to the string containing hello, in which case this would automatically change to which data type? Can anybody tell me? Put your hands up. Sarah, yes?
String.
String, exactly. And then let's say I realized that I made a mistake and I said, no, actually I want this to contain 99, not hello. What does the type change to automatically? Sarah?
Integer.
Integer. It's an
Perfect.
integer.
Great job, guys. And let's say I actually change this now. Calvin's mark went up even higher and I change it to 99.7. What does the type change to? And if it stays the same, you can say it stays the same. Yes, Samson, yes?
Decimal?
Yes, and remember what a decimal is called in Python? Alon, yeah?
Float.
Oh,
I am floating in the beach.
they're floating in the beach, yeah. Awesome. Okay, great job, guys. It seems that you understand what a variable is. Now, I want to teach you guys what a constant is. A constant is a little bit different from a variable, okay? A constant is a box which can only be opened once, and then the value inside the box stays the same for the rest of the program, okay? So a constant is a box which gets the same 3 attributes as a variable, okay? It gets a name. So let's say we now have a program which talks about weather, okay? So let's say we need a variable containing the color of the sky. So color of sky, for example. Now, the color of the sky, well, color of the sky changes, so that's not a good example. Let's think of something that can't change. Size of Earth, okay? Yes, questions, Samson.
Wait, the size of Earth could change, but I think something that couldn't change is like your birthday.
Okay, fine. Yeah, your birthday. So I'm gonna actually use that example. That is a better example.
And also, I thought you spelled color like COLOR.
So there's 2 different spellings to color. There's the US spelling, which is COLOR, and then there's the Canadian spelling, which is COLOUR. So
Wait, what about the other countries?
other English-speaking countries. So most other English-speaking countries use UR, COLOUR.
Oh,
But
okay.
let's move on to the content we're talking about. Okay, Sarah, yes.
Here's another suggestion.
Yes.
How about this one?
How about what?
How about this one? So, your eye color.
Eye color. Okay, great. Yeah. I'm going to stick with the birthday example because that's a great example, if you don't mind, Sarah. And Samson, let me just finish this thought and then we'll go to more questions, okay? Because I also want to get to showing you guys how to create a variable and a constant in Python. So let's say I go like this. So who gave me the birthday suggestions? Samson, right? So Samson's birthday. Okay, so let's say we're creating a calendar app or calendar website. We want to have Samson's birthday in there, and Samson's birthday always stays the same. So Samson's birthday, for example, let's say we put Samson, what's your birthday?
7th. August 7th.
Oh, your birthday's really coming up, like you said.
Yeah,
Okay, great.
Days.
So August 7th is what's stored inside. And can anybody put their hand up and tell me what data type this August 7th is?
String.
String. Thank you, Alon. So August 7th is a string that gets stored inside Samson's birthday. And so the difference between a variable and a constant is that in a constant, once we store something inside, the box closes, okay? And gets taped shut. Okay, and now the value inside can never change. We can still use the value, but the value inside can't change, or it shouldn't change. Okay, So
I
same,
think the person who taped the box could have done a better job.
yes, probably you're right.
Just like an inch of tape. That's
This,
it.
but this drawing is just for your understanding. It's not.
I know, but I would probably put it inside of a fire, inside of a vault, inside of a vault, inside of a vault, inside of a vault, inside of a vault.
Yes, that is a lot of work, though, isn't it? Okay, so August 7th is inside. Okay, that's the difference. And there are some there. So constants are actually never named with lowercase. Their constants are always completely uppercase in Python. So it would be named like this. It looks as if someone's shouting it, right?
Yeah.
Samson's birthday. All right. Like that. Okay, awesome. Now, does everybody understand variables and constants? Because if you do, I'm going to show you how to create them in Python and in Rust.
Can I tell you something?
Yes, Sarah, please. Yeah, I was going to get to you.
So, excuse me, but something about the taping thing. So here's an easy way. Samson's way was pretty good too. But if you really want to do that in real life, but you don't have a bunch of vaults,
yeah,
then here's my suggestion.
Sure, yes.
Use 10 layers of super glue.
Wow. Yeah, that's a great idea.
Or you could put it inside concrete.
Okay, guys, let's continue talking about Python, okay? Because I think that's more important right now, and you guys can talk about this after. Okay? All right. Because we're here to learn about Python. So I'm going to show you how to create a variable using the same examples as before. Okay? So to create a variable, we first write the variable name, and there's some rules about variable names which I'll teach you next class. So they have to be they have to be lowercase. They have to start with a lowercase letter, and they can't contain any special characters except underscores. So they're not allowed to contain spaces or anything like that. So what we use instead of spaces are underscores. So we write our variable name. Okay, in this case it's Calvin's birthday. That's the name of the box. And then what goes inside the box, we write with an equal sign, and then what goes inside with the box. Sorry, not Calvin's birthday, Calvin's mark, right? And then what goes inside the box, we write. So 95 in our case, okay? And like Sarah said, what goes inside the box determines the type of the variable. So because an integer goes inside the Calvin's mark variable, the type Calvin's mark. And I'm going to explain how this works in probably next class because we are running out of time. But if I click run here, this is going to show me the type of variable that Calvin's mark is. So let me click run. Can everybody see properly? No, Calvin, you can't see?
No.
You guys can't see what I'm writing?
Probably computer problems.
Oh no, that's not good. Okay, so what do you guys see right now? Do you see my shared screen? No, right?
Yeah.
Okay, you just see my camera. Okay, now. So how about now? Do you guys see my shared screen?
No.
No? Lulu, you see?
We see your shared screen, yeah.
Okay, great, perfect. Okay.
Yes, I can see it.
Okay, so now see when I click run, it should tell me the type of Calvin's mark. So what type of variable Calvin's mark is. So see, it says class integer. So you can ignore the class. Class just means type, but it says integer, right? Now, what if I did this? What if I did this? What do you guys think is going to be outputted when I run this code? Put your hands up. Alon, yeah?
String.
Say that again. String, yes. And Sarah, can you tell me if I do this, what is going to be outputted?
I forgot the word, but I know it's a float.
Yes, float. So the word is float. So let's run this and see, we get class float. And if I do this, I get class string or class third, just like Alon said. Okay, so that's how we create a variable. And the way we create a constant is actually the same way. We just need to have all our letters capitalized. So Samson's birthday. August 7th, right? And then we can, if we do print type, type Samson's birthday, what are we going to get? Can someone put their hand up? Sarah, yeah?
String.
Sarah?
String.
String. So we're going to get two things outputted, both of them saying class string. Okay, great job. Okay, perfect, guys. Great job. Now, for homework, what I want you guys to do, I'm going to write a bunch of variables here. Okay. And what I want you guys to do is tell me what type they are. Okay. And then, so that's the first part of your homework. And the second part of your homework for next class is to create 3 different types of variables in Python on REPL with their variable name and whatever you want them to contain, and one constant. Okay.